Before I show you any setup, let me show you the result. What you are seeing here is a UiPath robot filling the RPA challenge web app automatically. It is reading data from Excel, mapping each value to the correct field, submitting each entry, and completing the challenge successfully. But here is the interesting part. I did not build this manually step by step in Studio. I used Claude Code running inside UiPath Studio, together with UiPath for coding agents, and ask Edit to build the automation for me. In this video, I will show you the full flow, the setup, the commands, how Claude understands the project, how it captures selectors, how it handles Excel, and finally how it runs the automation end to end. And make sure you stay till the end, because I will also show you what happens during debugging, and I will leave you with an interesting challenge. Can we make this robot run even faster using Claude? Let us start with the setup. For this demo, I am assuming Claude Code is already installed and available on the machine. The first thing we need is node.js, because UiPath CLI is distributed through npm. I start by checking the node version using node dash version. This confirms that node is available. Now I install the UiPath CLI globally using npm install -g at UiPath/CLI. This gives us the UIP command, which is the command line entry point for working with UiPath from a terminal. Next, I confirm the installed version using UIP version, and then I run UIP help to see the available options. Here you can see the main areas exposed through the CLI. There is login and logout for authentication. There are tools which extend the CLI with commands for different UiPath services, and there are skills which are especially important for coding agents. The simple way to think about it is this. Tools add new UIP commands. Skills teach the coding agent how and when to use those commands. So a developer may know how to run a command manually, but with skills installed, Claude can reason through the UiPath task and decide which commands or project changes are needed. Next, I log into my UiPath organization using UIP login. This creates the local session that the CLI will use. The coding agent can also use this same session when it needs to inspect folders, packages, solutions, or other UiPath resources. Now let me run an orchestrator command, UIP or folders list. The important thing here is that UiPath CLI can automatically install the related tool when you first use a command like this. So when I run an orchestrator command, the CLI knows which tool is needed and can bring it in automatically. But we can also install tools explicitly. For example, here I am installing the UiPath solution tool using UIP tools install at UiPath/solution-tool. Now let us install the UiPath skills for the default coding agent detected on this machine. I run UIP skills install. This installs UiPath-specific instructions for the agent, so it understands how to build, validate, package, and operate UiPath automations using the CLI and the project files. And if I want to install skills for a specific agent, I can pass the agent name. For example, for Codex, I can run UIP skills install -agent Codex. In this video, I'm using Claude Code, but this is useful if you also work with other coding agents. Now we are inside UiPath Studio. The key thing to notice here is that I have a terminal available directly inside Studio. That means I can work with my UiPath project and interact with Claude Code from the same place. Instead of constantly switching between Studio, terminal, and browser, I can ask Claude to inspect the project, modify files, install dependencies, and help build the automation directly from here. Now the build starts. I create a new UiPath project for this automation. Then I start Claude from the terminal. Now I give Claude the actual task. I ask it to create a UiPath automation for rpachallenge.com. The automation should open the RPA challenge web app, download the Excel file from the website, read all rows from the Excel file, fill each row back into the web form, submit each entry, and complete the challenge successfully. Notice that I am not giving it tiny implementation steps. I am giving it the outcome and the constraints. Claude immediately starts by loading the project and understanding whether this is a new or existing UiPath project. This is important because the coding agent is not just generating random code. It is inspecting the workspace, checking the structure, and then deciding what needs to be created. Next, Claude identifies the dependencies required for this automation. For this challenge, we need browser automation and Excel handling. So Claude installs and configures the UiPath UI automation package and the Excel package. These are the two core capabilities required for this workflow. UI automation is used to interact with the browser. Excel activities are used to read the challenge data. Claude also configures the browser that will be used for the run, in this case, Chrome. Before changing everything, Claude creates a task plan. This is one of the reasons coding agents are useful for automation development. Instead of jumping straight to the final workflow, it breaks the work into steps. Here it plans to launch the RPA challenge website in Chrome, capture the landing page targets, capture the form fields, download and inspect the Excel file, build the main workflow, and then validate, build, and debug, run the automation. This gives us visibility into what the agent is doing, and as it completes each task, it marks it off. Now Claude starts with the browser. It captures the window selector for the RPA challenge tab and identifies the application-level elements. This includes the page itself, the Start button, the download link, and the form area. Once it verifies that Chrome can launch and navigate to rpachallenge.com, it marks the first task as complete. This is a small step, but it matters. A reliable automation starts with a reliable application target. If the browser target is weak, everything else becomes unstable. Now we get to one of the most important parts of the demo, selectors. The RPA challenge is designed to be tricky because the fields can appear in different positions. So if we rely only on screen position or fragile selectors, the automation can break. Claude starts resolving selectors for all the target elements in the form. As it works through them, it notices that some elements are unreliable. Instead of stopping, it retries automatically. It looks for better selector strategies, validates the improved selectors, and then applies the winning selectors to the object repository. This is where the agent becomes more than just a code generator. It can inspect the failure, adjust the approach, and continue improving the automation. Once the landing page targets are captured and validated, Claude marks the next task as complete. Next, Claude moves to the Excel file. It downloads the challenge Excel file from the website and inspects its structure. The important part here is that it reads the headers instead of assuming a fixed column order. That is exactly what we want for this challenge. The automation should understand which value belongs to which field, even if the columns are arranged differently. Claude gets the sheet name from the Excel file and starts generating the main workflow. At this point, it connects all the pieces. Open the browser, download the Excel file. Read the spreadsheet, loop through each row. Map Excel columns to form fields. Type the values into the web app. Click Submit. Repeat until all rows are processed. Then it verifies the generated main workflow file and moves to validation, build, and debug run. Now comes the real test. Claude starts the debug run. The automation opens the RPA challenge website. It downloads the Excel file. It reads each entry. And now you can see the robot filling the fields one by one. Each row from Excel becomes one form submission. This is the moment where we know whether the selectors, Excel logic, and workflow structure are actually working together. This is the final payoff. We went from a blank UiPath project to a working UI automation robot, with Claude helping us create, inspect, validate, and debug the automation. One thing I want to highlight is debugging. If you encounter an error during the debug run, do not stop at the first failure. Claude Code can analyze the error, inspect the workflow, identify what went wrong, and apply a fix. For example, if a selector is unstable, it can retry with a better selector. If the Excel file path is wrong, it can inspect the download location. If an activity is missing or misconfigured, it can update the project. This does not mean you should blindly trust every change, but it does mean the feedback loop becomes much faster. Run, observe, let Claude analyze, fix, and run again. That is the real power of UiPath for coding agents. So that is the full demo. We used UiPath CLI, UiPath Skills, Claude Code, Studio, UiAutomation, Excel, selectors, and debugging to build a complete RPA challenge automation. The key takeaway is not just that Claude can generate a workflow. The key takeaway is that a coding agent can participate in the automation development lifecycle. It can inspect the project, it can install packages, it can reason through selectors, it can build the main workflow, it can validate the result. And when something fails, it can help debug and fix the issue. Now here's a challenge for you. This automation works, but can we make it faster? Can Claude optimize the workflow so the robot completes the RPA challenge in less time while still keeping 100% accuracy? Try asking Claude to improve the execution speed, reduce unnecessary waits, optimize selectors, and streamline the Excel to form loop. If you want to see that as a follow-up video, let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.